the final stop of the Road Cup. And it's a track which everyone has heard of. It's a track which all iRacers know like the back of their hand. It's a track which is a very, very beautiful face. And as you go around and deal with the fabled corkscrew nose of the circuit, this is one place where being prudent, being precise, is going to be the big game changer. It's the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and it's round 9 of the Crest Autosport IndyCar Series, the final stop of the Road Cup of the 2 races part of this championship. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world. I'm Jake Sparey, William Foyle on the cameras here today as we take ourselves around a very, very important track when it comes to racing action. This is the sort of place where if you go out, you get some great racing underneath you. You have to be alert to what is a circuit that wants to be, at the very best of times and the very worst of times, very, very difficult. You can see that just there with a lot of these drivers pushing through, even the pit lane for that being very difficult. Live, of course, today with Crest Autosport TV via Facebook, YouTube and Twitch. Welcome to the party. Give ourselves a like, a follow or a subscribe, whichever place you're watching from, and get yourself up to date on some of the newer content coming along with us at Crest Autosport. But today, this is round 9 of 12 overall. It's a 40-lap foray around this circuit, and they know better than anybody else that this is not a track that you want to be struggling at. This is a track where you step out of line for a half a second, that your race is over and done with. But, you know, coming up after this here at Laguna Seca, the final round of the Road Cup, they'll have Gateway to go and contend with. Following that is Chicagoland, where anybody has an opportunity to pick up a victory there. And following that, that final round on the 19th of April, the Indianapolis 100 to end the season out. And it's always been important to get Indianapolis sorted, especially a month before the Indianapolis 500 in iRacing. Of course, that fabled month of May being very crucial to get correct. So, the winner of the series, as is per usual, wins a fabulous prize provided by Apex Tracks, which is a sculpture of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to pin up on their driver wall. And of course, Apex Tracks are the main sponsors of today. They are the motorsports and motor racing circuit wall art racetrack sculpture designers who manufacture using Formula 1 and motorsport-inspired rapid prototyping technologies. That's along with Track Racer, 603 Autosport, Digital Motorsport, Esports Sim, and the GP Box. But on top of that, provided by Uncle Luke's Sign and Sticker Shop, there are plaque prizes to be provided to the top 3 of the championship, as well as the winner of the Indianapolis 100 round. And it is worth talking about today, the winner of the Road Course Cup is taking away a model sculpture of the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, crafted by Apex Tracks. So that's worth a prize more in itself. That Road Course Cup could definitely be heading well into the hands of a driver who needs it. You still have opportunities to sign up, even though we are 4 rounds from the end of the season. So get yourself out there, get yourself a chance to go out and have some fun. And if you do have that opportunity to go out, be aggressive, just race a couple races, see how it feels to be out there against the competition. I wouldn't blame you. This would be a fun time to go out and make sure that you're racing. And there's just a little foray off the circuit there that we just saw, and a little charge around this track. So a little bit delayed here today. There was a few concerns out there on circuit which were allayed, but the one thing that we do know is it will be 20 minutes worth of qualifying, open session, so everyone gets the chance to go out there together and try and race. There will be that 5-minute warm-up and then a 40-lap race here today. A bonus point, as per usual, for fastest lap, pole position, and most laps led. This is going to be a track which stays pretty much as it is. But let's talk about what makes this WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca such a difficult track to go out there to race, to be aggressive with. There isn't really too much of a long straight to attack. The sweep into the Andretti hairpin at turn 2 might be the best place today to make the move happen, but you've got chances. If you want to go at turn number 5, the back of the head, you've always got that move along that long left-hander to make that a reality to overtake. On top of that, you've got that run up the fabled corkscrew, always a chance to make something happen as we focus on Matt Emmons at this point in time going through that fabled left of turn 5. But then, of course, the final corner out on track is going to be a place to look at here, right down at the bottom of the neck. And if you can get that final corner sorted, as Ollie Peters gets way off the road, just about saves it there as Dave Steadman's there with the T&D racing car, you've got every chance of making this lap work. Track, though, is hot at this point in time. It's 44 degrees out there. And one thing is for absolute certain, as Dave Steadman looks to start his lap off right here in qualifying, it is going to be about maybe 1, maybe 2 laps on the soft if they want to go for it. The red sticker tyres are going to be very crucial. Keep in mind, drivers know that they have to start the race on the tyre compound that they qualified on. Not necessarily the same tyre, but the same tyre compound. And that's going to be crucial because you're going to be seeing some drivers going out there on the red sticker soft compound tyre, those Firestones, and trying to get themselves away quickly. Other drivers out there, maybe not so much, as Jamie Dory's next-gen car can see traversing through towards that sector, just getting past David Whitehouse there in the Mercedes-inspired livery. And you can see those 4 sectors, all green, trying to make that charge, but getting a little bit out of shape, pushing too hard through the penultimate corner. That will invalidate the lap, and ultimately that one is going to be falling away. And a lot of drivers are going to be struggling to get those laps in on the board, which they have been absolutely searching for with the way that they have been racing. So Ben Bennyworth sets the benchmark then of a 108, but it's a 960 from Steadman, who moves just 200ths clear at the front of the field and looked a lot better in the final 2 sectors to push that one up to fastest out there on track. So really well worked, really well used. Standard points here tonight as well, and they have to be alert to it, and they have that one fast repair to try and get themselves sorted in the racing. One thing that is also different is the fact they still have themselves opportunities to get themselves going. They still have the rolling start, but it is going to be a case of when do you go is the key. Barendrecht goes 5th fastest with his time. It's Alex Everett now is fastest on a 108.2, 7/10 of a second faster than anybody else in that opening lap. So that is a big lap to set at the right time for Alex Everett on the red stickers. And there is Lars Petter Andersen, as they know that it is a long qualifying session. About 16 minutes on the clock remaining for these drivers. So the first 4 minutes through, Andersen going up the hill towards that fabled corkscrew. You plateau as you brake, which makes it so easy to run wide. And they can see already all the dust and dirt being kicked up as Timothy Stroh in the overall championship battle moves up second fastest. Andersen, Norwegian, coming in only for the road course races, hits the brakes, dives through the final corner, looks to charge up towards the line, uses all of the rumble strip on that outside. And as Everett goes to a 107.9, Lars Petter Andersen goes a quarter of a second behind, but does jump Timothy Stroh and moves into that second position. So some good times there early. And there is Matt Emmons also here as part of the Road Course Cup, looking for a good solution here today in order to put the points together, in order to showcase what Next Gen are all about. And if you can find a little bit of pace out on track, then it is going to do you a whole world of good when the opening laps get themselves in. This tough corner here, turn 6, you can see the car bounce over that anti-cut curb on the inside. And every time they're going to be going over that, they're going to have to be alert to what they need to do. Emmons abandons the lap as Jamie Dory effectively goes through, and he will continue on the Next Gen pursuit, going through the rainy curve and over towards turn 10. 90-degree right-hander, so easy to push a little bit too hard through the on-camber display, and then into that final corner, one of the slowest corners out there on the track, as Lars Petter Andersen goes fastest by nearly 3/10 of a second with a 107.5. No lap time there for Jamie Dory, so he can't improve on that at the moment. Hasn't set any time out there at this point. But as we know, you don't have to set that time immediately, and a lot of drivers are going to have to be looking up at the weather here today. It's partly cloudy skies. They're going to hope that there's going to be a little bit of I would say, cloud cover across the circuit at some point to just bring the track temperatures down. A hot 44 degrees is always going to be worth keeping in mind as Dory makes his way up the hill to probably one of the highest vistas on the circuit. Double take through the corner. That's a bit too fast going in, and another lap that has to be abandoned out there overall. So there is Alex Everett in second position right now. And he's going out with another set of the red sticker tyres and finding out why you can't push too hard around here. Losing the back end, just keeping it out of the barriers and doing just enough to keep himself going. But it is going to take a little while to get those tyres back to operating after a wicked slide like that through various corners. Couple drivers have yet to put a representative time on the clock. Jamie Dory and Stephen de Grevelier are two of those, and Jeremy Pronk not in session at the moment, so he might be in a little bit of trouble as he'll need to get back in within the next 12 minutes or so. But here is a look at the standings as we move on here into it. This is the Road Course Cup and how they line up going into this very difficult challenge. And crucially, Watkins Glen earlier on in the season was a great place to see some great racing. Alex Everett had control of that, took 31 points away from it. Thijs Barendrecht took 29 and is only 2 points back. Lars Petter Andersen, also the Basic Racing team, in third, and Ollie Peters fourth. So it's between Crest and Basic Racing team if they want to sort that out. Of course, Ben Bennyworth, Jeremy Pronk, Timothy Stroh are hoping that their points haul tonight is going to be enough. And with road courses, you never know how it's going to turn up. The pace is more cut and dry, yes, but the opportunities for mistakes also drastically increase over the course of racing today. So that's always going to be in the back of the minds of drivers. How much can you get out of the racing? How much can you score what is needed? And ultimately at this point, I'm pretty sure a lot of drivers are just hoping that they can get a good, solid haul of points today and move themselves forward for what they want. Everett then coming to the line, see what he puts on the board. It's a 1:08.7, so not really the quickest lap time in the world, but just trying to gear himself up for it. It is worth keeping an eye out on car 44 that's just come out of the pits in third position overall, Timothy Stroh. Now, someone like Timothy has been using this as a damage limitation style race, has been looking at this as, I'll try and hold on to as many points as I can, and definitely will be hoping today that his overall pace gets him a result that he can be comfortable with. They know they've got to go at least 10 laps on whatever tyre they start with, and out there on the red stickers, a lot of drivers have opted to go red sticker in order to start things off. De Grevelier, Stock, Emmons, Whitehouse and Peters all on the alternative then of the traditional harder compounds with no stickers, the regular Firestones out there at this point in time. On cue, Ollie Peters over the radio, just struggling a little bit out there here today as well. So he's not been the most comfortable on an 11.3 at the moment. Would definitely like a little bit more to work with out there over the course of today. But here's Stroh pushing through these 90-degree-ish right-handers under the Firestone Bridge and in towards turn 4. This is where you're really trying to gear up that lap. Use all of what you can available underneath and then pivot in towards turn number 5. Stroh up the hill. Jamie Dory goes fourth fastest with an 8.7. That's a great lap time by him. And up the hill, Stroh looking absolutely fantastic as he goes through the left and the right of the corkscrew. It's about going down 11 flights as you drop down that corkscrew. It is such a notorious corner for just how much of a drop it is, and every time you drive it doesn't do enough justice. De Grevelier finally puts his time on the board, a 16 flat, little deep into the final corner. Ben Bennyworth now goes fourth fastest, jumping Jamie Dory. And a 10.2 from Timothy Stroh. Wasn't able to get that sorted on the opening lap. Everett, by the way, has gone fastest, but not by much. 12 thousandths of a second it's going to be between Everett and Anderson, I think, to go through. And it's so telling that Anderson sits in the pits, waits for Everett to beat the time. Okay, he's beaten my time. I guess I'll go out then and make something happen. On top of that, you know as well that drivers are looking for times. Thijs Barendrecht in the number 1, well out of position right now with his times. He's done a 10.5 at this point on the red sticker, and that I don't think is representative of what he's capable of doing. He is capable of breaking into the 8s and the 7s, but every time he pushes, he's just going off the circuit, and you can see all the lines in the gravel and the dry grass, which has been sun-kissed and then some out there on track. It's so easy to fall into a little bit of trouble around certain tracks if you are just pushing a little bit over the edge, which I think Barendrecht is. Everett with control and out now on a lap, but that should be tough enough to make the lap not happen. So, not ideal. Also, keep an eye on Nigel Stock in terms of his laps on the harder tyre. He's definitely going to be someone trying to run that alternative strategy here today. There is a big 1.3 second gap between 6th and 7th, so if you can close that down a little bit, I'd say he'd be on for a really good day today. Locks up going into the final corner. Drivers have been struggling with their gearing over the course of this one, especially the longer that they've been on a set of tyres. It's a 19.1 gearing up for a flying lap. So Everett now making that run in towards the final corner here. Nice and neat with the curb. Looking to attack off of the exit here and make the run for the line. And his answer as he goes through that lap invalidated will not count. Dory goes third fastest then as he jumps up ahead of Timothy Stroh. So now all of a sudden, Everett, Anderson, Dory, Stroh, Bennyworth, your top 5 as things look right now. It's the top 2. It's a nice grouping of about 6 as up to 9th position goes David Whitehouse with a good lap there. That was an 11th lap from him. Nice to see him out there in the Motorsport Magpie racing car and finding some good pace out there in the early or in the mid to late goings. Right now we are down to 6.5 minutes out then here in qualifying at this point in time. So I'd say we're in a really nice position to see just how good racing can be, and a lot of drivers out there. Lars Petter Anderson going out for a flying lap, 8.1 on that first attempt, and that's a double take through the corner, so this will be a lap abandoned, and as he abandons it, takes the toe back to the pits. No rule against that. He will effectively reset and go again. Everett over the line. That is a 5.46 with that lap, and to tell you just how close that lap was in terms of his fastest, he just went quicker by another 0.04 of a second, so gives himself more of a margin. It's now half a tenth that he's been able to extract out of the car. Jamie Dory currently in third for Next Gen, and he'll have to deal with the Grevalier over the course of this lap and just has to dive down the inside. Not bad at all. Wasn't great at Watkins Glen in the first round of 2 in the Road Course Cup, so definitely would love to try and come away with a good result out there here today, but there aren't any guarantees to it, and I'm sure a lot of drivers are trying to put their best foot forward in terms of times and put something down which they can feel comfortable with. There's no 107% rule or anything like that, so every time counts on the boards. But as we near now the final 5 minutes, it's going to be about one good lap, and it will only be one good lap that pushes forward almost everyone on an out lap. There's Dory coming to the line, that lap not counting, and you have to be aggressive here into the Andretti hairpin. Turn 2, double apex left, and there is Thijs Barendrecht up into 6th position now with a 108.636. The big difference between him and Ben Bennyworth is a full 1,000th of a second. And if Thijs wants to take the Road Course Cup, he's going to have to hope that his teammate and Alex Everett have a tangle, you'd feel, around this racetrack today. But 6th is tough, and a track that is tough to overtake. Yes, they have 10 uses of the push-to-pass system, but how much good that will do, I do not know. Hits the brakes, just going ahead of Matt Emmons there. Car number 72. And Thijs over the line, that one won't count. Emmons will try and get the best run behind him out on circuit, but pretty much everyone out there, and Emmons are off the road at turn 1, or turn 2, sorry. That'll be his day done. But here's Stroh in 4th position. Been a maestro on oval qualifying. Road qualifying, not so much. Under the VP bridge, into turn 6. That's nice and neat. Maybe a little bit slow to put the power down, but it's not the end of the world. Running up to the corkscrew, the left followed by the right. And as you dip down the hill, very planted is Stroh with the way he's driving. This is a paint-by-numbers style lap that he's going on at the moment. Nothing feels out of control. Everything feels well within the bounds as he will run himself then on this outlap through the final corner and gear it up for a flyout. And sometimes that's all the lap needs to be. If it looks slow, sometimes it's fast, and that could be crucial in terms of putting together the ultimate portfolio. Of course, with this being an open qualifying session, when the timer expires, all drivers are allowed to finish the lap that they are on, and that could be massive as Barendrecht goes 5th fastest with a 108.498, 300ths behind Stroh with that lap time. So there's still more to be gained out there at the moment. Ollie Peters has moved himself up then another position, and he has done so on the hard tyres into 8th place. So he's gained as well. Stroh up the hill, looking for a good time then as he runs forward, looking towards that corkscrew and how difficult it can be. Moving through the left and the right, maybe a little bit of room given on that right is giving Lars Petter Anderson a bit of a tow here through the final couple corners. They dive through the penultimate run, look to drive towards that line. They're both encroaching on Ollie Peters, and it's going to be about this drag race, and I think Stroh might be pulling Lars Petter Anderson to a great lap time here. And as they cross the line, it's only a 7.9 for Anderson, it's a 9.4 for Stroh, and this track maybe has hit its peak of rubbering in. It's also gone up to 45 degrees. In sim time is about 13 and 13 seconds right now. So as Barendrecht pulls it off, he's going to have to get around pretty quickly if he wants to get that lap sorted. Remember, it is 1 minute 30 seconds, and they all want to be out there as late as possible to see if they can improve. Barendrecht's gone 3rd fastest. Anderson's off the road, and he will not get a lap. He spun it out of the pit lane. So Lars Petter Anderson, unless he goes now, minute 16 on the clock, he won't get a lap here. Ollie Peters here on screen in the 88 car in 9th place, pulls off to the side of the road. Let Stroh go, and he'll have one more attempt to put a lap together. It's going to be massive to see who is going to be last over the line and get themselves the last attempt on a time. There's Jamie Dory. He's in 4th position and on his last attempt at a flyout as he goes through at turn number 3 under the Firestone Bridge and into 4. So easy to run wide at 4. You do it a million times in practice and hope that you don't follow suit in the race. 30 seconds soon to come up on the clock then as they try and get themselves over the line, gearing up for a lap and trying to give themselves some space out there on circuit. Dory off the road. His qualifying is done. There's Lars Petter Anderson. He's going to be one of the last drivers coming to the line. There's 15 seconds on the clock. Barendrecht in front of him, as well as Alex Everett. Everett's going to cross with about 8 seconds on the clock. But Lars Petter Anderson, he will get one more attempt. Crosses with 4 seconds remaining. And Whitehouse will be the last driver over the line who can set a time. De Grevillier's out and Barendrecht in the wall. So his qualifying already over. So Everett versus Anderson. So that's going to be the key as we take a little comparison in terms of times at sectors on what can you do out there around this track. Anderson all over the curb trying to drive forward, and on the brakes he's got Alex Everett there just in front with the checkered flag. He feels he can't improve, so it's down to Lars Petter Anderson as he runs up through this very fast left-hander, pushing right up against the grass. That won't be an instant point. He continues on then with his lap, hitting the brakes, looking for the corkscrew, the left followed by the right. And if he can get this lap working, and he knows he's the last car on track who can, he might have enough to snatch pole position away. Moving through then the penultimate corner and on towards turn 11, the final corner out on track, looking to get really aggressive with that red anti-cut curb. pushing over the green AstroTurf as he drives to the line, and Anderson throws it in the wall because he knew it wasn't good enough. So Anderson frustrated with himself that he couldn't piece the best lap together. Alex Everett will take pole position then here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. We can run through official classified results then here from qualifying, and it is car number 2, the winner of the first round of the Road Course Cup, putting it on pole position. That will be Alex Everett overall. He does it with a 107.546, and he's clear of Lars Petter Anderson by half a tenth of a second. Tijs Barendrecht will line up third with Jamie Dory in fourth position. We'll get the results up in full for you, ladies and gentlemen, right about now, with fifth place going to Timothy Stroh and sixth to Ben Bennyworth. Dave Steadman will start in seventh with Nigel Stock in eighth. The Stock racing car improving late on. He'll be the first of the medium runners, with Ollie Peters in ninth and David Whitehouse rounding out the top 10. Following that is Matt Evans and Stephen de Grevelier, and no time set by Jeremy Pronk in the number 52. Do not expect him to be out there racing today for the Dutch sim racing team. So, it's a 40-lap adventure here today, and these drivers know they cannot afford to make mistakes on a hot track. It is effectively 12 cats on a hot tin roof as they try and go around this WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and they know that this is going to be a tough ordeal by every stretch of the imagination. This is a track where you look at it on paper and you think it looks easy, but the elements of undulation, elevation change around this old dried up lake bed that this used to be, and then the ability to go out and try and find and mastermind this track. This is a technical masterpiece. One of the first tracks you have to learn when it comes to iRacing, because if you can understand this track, you can understand quite a lot of tracks out there over the course of the world. So that's definitely going to be worth keeping in the back of the mind, that drivers are going to be pushing to try and get their best possible result out there, but they know they have to drive well within their limits today, because this is a limitless circuit that will force some spins out there and will force drivers into some very closely worked barriers and some very tough places to stop. This is, by all intents and purposes, a track which is more MotoGP in the past than it has been Formula One, mainly because this track has those very close walls and barriers which you wouldn't traditionally have when it comes to this place. What it also doesn't have is the traditional runoff area that you see from most Formula style circuits. It is dried grass and gravel, which means it's very slick out there if you find yourself off the road, and very tough to go and grab everything back. A lot of Californian tracks, Sonoma is the one that definitely comes to mind as well. They all have that burnt grass look around them, and that makes these circuits very, very difficult. That dried grass never really gets that opportunity to work forward, and because we are in May, that's something pushing that you've got to be alert to. One thing I would like out of the iRacing service once upon it, or in the future I should say, is that different seasons look different, where, for example, you catch early spring and the dried grass is all green and lush. It makes the track look completely different as you go around and try and pace and set the best laps out there on circuit. But Alex Everett then, with the best time in qualifying, knows he just has to convert in this race. There's Stroh out on track, but Alex Everett not out on circuit, not feeling the need to practice. So there is Timothy Stroh in what is third in the warm-up, and the T&D Racing driver always prides himself on his ability to finish in these endurance-y style road course races. They're always difficult. You have to be pinpoint, and Timothy Stroh has been driving paint by numbers over the course of this one. Number 44 on the car, and here's a look from the front wing. Going through that penultimate corner, you can see just how low it sets to the ground, just pivoting through into the final corner, attacking off of the exit, and away to start another lap. That small rise as they go up the hill through turn number 1 towards the Andretti hairpin. And every time you go and race, you know if you don't get turn 2 correct, this hairpin The rest of the lap you can just forget about, because it is going to be a really difficult track today to sort out all of the momentum that is very much needed. They've got themselves about 40 seconds. The final elements of practicing are pretty much going on. Some looking at the red sticker tyres, others looking at the harder tyre. Try and get the most out of today. And a lot of drivers have been saying, how much do we need to avoid the first gear as we drive around this place today? This is going to be a case where the tyres are going to fall off rather quickly. And because of that, if those tyres do let go, especially the red sticker soft tyres, expect drivers to only go maybe 10 laps and switch them over. That might be something they're trying to do, dependent on whether we see cautions out here today. So that's always going to be worth keeping in mind. The checkered flag out then here in the warm-up. We're going to be heading ourselves down to the starting grid, and everyone now gearing themselves up for some great racing action. It is Alex Everett on pole position, 107.546. We'll have Lars Petter Anderson for company in the number 42. The answer to the life, universe, and everything is the basic racing team. Then you've got Thijs Barendrecht there, the reigning champion. He goes from third place with Jamie Dory. Great qualifying from him. He starts fourth with Timothy Stroh fifth and Ben Bennyworth in sixth place. Dave Steadman and Nigel Stock, they line up on the fourth row with Ollie Peters ninth and David Whitehouse rounding out the top 10. That follows on with Matt Emmons. And then after that, you have got yourself Stephen de Grevelier, and do not expect Jeremy Pronk to be taking to the starting grid today. Just the 12 drivers out here racing and trying to put their best foot forward. And I believe Jeremy Pronk saying he was a little bit concerned today about his tiredness levels, and he's definitely suffering out there today, and as such deciding to park the car before it even starts, which is a shame. But they will have a full pace lap behind the iRacing Porsche first safety car out here today, being driven not by the Undertaker but by one of the iRacing drivers out there. That being, I guess, iRacing Steve is his name. We haven't really come up with a name. There's Barney the Flagman, but there isn't really a name for the safety car driver. So safety car Steve is driving out there at the moment here for us at this point. So one thing that these drivers are all having to be alert to is just how narrow this track can be at the best of times. It's too wide at best. Sometimes you can push, for example, here into 3 wide. There's a look at Alex Everett in that Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks car. And my goodness, does he want to pick up that wonderful Laguna Seca circuit by Apex Tracks come the end of the racing. All these drivers know that it's a very hot circuit, and they're having to really dance about and hope that they don't do anything untoward around this place. They know the finest margins today could decide this race. The corkscrew, a very tough place out on circuit to get correct, and expect a number of drivers to struggle to outbrake themselves over the rise and maybe to fall down. And a lot of drivers deciding to go single file down through here and then re-line up once again. Definitely a crucial way to get through on the pace lap. We'll see whether they do the same later on. So control of the field with Alex Everett. He's going to have to decide the right way to go as they go through turn 10. Let's put 40 laps up on the clock. An hour 45 minutes on the clock overall if they should so need it. Pace car dives into what is a very tricky pit lane. As they round the final corner, Everett gets on the binders quickly, and we're going to get the green flag and we're underway. Barendrecht was alert to it. Anderson a little slow. He falls back into third. Jamie Dory trying to go around the outside now, in towards the opening corner here at turn 2. And as they go through, almost contact between the leaders as well, as they shufty about. Bit of side-by-side in the back as well. Ollie Peters losing out to David Whitehouse in terms of position, but a clean start as they go through. Front 4 trying to break away early as they run through towards then turn 5 on track. Here comes a look down the inside, almost there from Dory. Couldn't quite get there on Lars Petter Anderson as Barendrecht runs wide going through, and that allows Anderson up and through into 6. So the basic racing team cars tripping over. It's allowing Everett early to break away. Last thing you want to see, Dory trying to angle towards that corkscrew. Can't quite find the right mentality here to find that move done. So patience very much needed in the early stages. And that then for Thijs Barendrecht is him back in third position. Anderson trying to give chase back up into second place at this moment. Behind that, you've got Stroh and Bennyworth and Stedman, who are 5th, 6th and 7th out there at this point in time. They're trying their best to get their best points available here today as they run into the Andretti hairpin and search for some good runs. There's Ben Bennyworth in 6th, who's just the quiet driver. Always finds some good pace, always up there scoring results. He reminds me very much of a Sebastian Bourdais style character who doesn't need to win, just score the consistent finishes, and those consistent finishes always puts him up top there or near the top when it comes to the end of seasons out there at the moment. So top 3 trying to extend with the top 4. Stroh in 5th, already over a second back. Those 10 push to passes might be crucial here today, but they don't necessarily know where's the best place to use them. Of course, they still have to worry about most laps led first and foremost, and of course, the runs going through for the ultimate most laps led. So at the front, Everett's trying to log as many laps as he can. And if he can do well on the front, then he won't have to be too concerned out there with the way that this track is. There will be a lot of opportunities to score the all-important points. They just have to be cautious in the early goings. The likes of the drivers who started then on the harder tyre, de Grevelier, Stock, Emmons and Peters. Stock is the leader of those drivers who started on the harder tyre. So keep an eye on Nigel Stock's race today and where he will funnel out in comparison to a lot of the other drivers here, and in terms of what his pace is going to be in the middling to later stint of this race as he runs up through the very difficult turn 6 and up the hill towards the dreaded corkscrew corner, which has been a little bit of a troublemaker out there in terms of laps from time to time. So that could be one thing just to keep in mind. The longer that a race like this does go on, that drivers do find out what makes this a tiredness factor. Top 2 split now by half a second. Lars Petter Andersen has done well. Has closed down the gap and broken away from Thijs Barendrecht. Everett knows, in terms of this right now, that if he finishes in second and Lars Petter Andersen wins this race, he still takes the cut. So he'd love to win. Absolutely he would. All racing drivers do. But if you're thinking about the long game, he might certainly be one of the drivers that you just have to keep an eye out on in terms of putting together a result here today. Andersen up the hill, chasing through turn 6, a little bit twitchy. Goes Everett through the exit of 6, and now all of a sudden Andersen crawls up onto the back through the fabled corkscrew corner, trying to get that drive, using the banking off of the exit, and around goes Jamie Dory in 4th position. So Dory going for a spin, has to really work to get back out on circuit. That coming out of relative nowhere for him, just pushed a little bit too deep through as the leading battle continues out there. That's what we're talking about. Drivers getting themselves in trouble. Leaders, though, as they run towards turn 2. Everett has everything scouted at the moment, has it all covered, and ultimately position holds here on lap 5 of 40. Ready in 8th of the way through the race. Dory has already got through on Ollie Peters, so Peters, who is struggling a little bit today, knows that he can't really fight too much with it, and he himself has to stay behind, at least for the time being. So good little battle there. Dory's next focus will be Nigel Stock down the road. There is Matt Emmons as well, his teammate in 11th position, running this as his final race of the season, and searching for a good result out here today, hoping that he can do everything he needs to, and then some. Leading duo back here once again. Everett and Andersen chasing each other through the California dunes, as it would be at this point in time, looking for lines. Everett using more of the circuit out there, running through the final corner and trying to attack off the exit. A little stuck over the curb, and wide in the background goes Thijs Barendrecht. He'll go skirting across, out braking himself. It puts Stroh a little bit closer there in third. So Barendrecht a little bit off the road again. Anderson, no chance. He may be waiting for the pit stop cycle before making that move. It might be something where you just want to play the long game and wait and just constantly needle at the driver in front. And we've got a few packs of two out here right now. For the lead, it's Everett and Anderson. For second and third, it is Barendrecht and Stroh. Then you've got Bennyworth and Stedman for fifth and sixth positions. And Jamie Dory now back onto the rear of one Mr. Nigel Stock out here on track. So we are seeing a lot of drivers. Looks like there has been a little bit of slowness on this lap for Stephen de Grevelier, but nothing out of the ordinary. His lap time's just not as quick as the others, as he's just trying to essentially find a finish out here today. But Everett and Anderson charging forward, and here is Jamie Dory up the hill, trying to find a way past Nigel Stock, but very narrow when you go through. It's effectively single file as you dive up into the corkscrew. Always be a little tentative as you go around that section of road. You know you have to cover the middle of the track, as Ollie Peters now finds himself down a position because he's had himself a little bit of an off at the corkscrew and nearly spun it actually into the wall. Did well to cover it off. Dory now going to the outside of Stock here, looking for the move around the outside. It's always going to be tough to make it happen. If you can get the drive off the exit, which he can on the red stickers, he'll gain the place and does so with a very accomplished move. It'll be Whitehouse, his next challenge out there on track. So good little move then constructed, and that puts up then Jamie Dory back into 8th position here in this one, and a race for him which he wants to recover as best he possibly can out here on circuit. So Everett, your leader, still being chased here by the Norwegian Lars Petter Andersen, who is absolutely flying at this point, just keeping themselves together. They've got 5.7 seconds to the likes of Thijs Barendrecht behind, so they certainly have a lot of a gap at this moment, and you'd say right now they are absolutely pushing for those lap times. Let's listen in with Lars Petter Andersen. Hear that early shift into 6 running into the corkscrew, and how much the car wants to really rise and gain that pace going down through the very tricky left and right out there on circuit. They will be dealing with a little bit of lap traffic shortly. Of course, that is the form of Stephen de Grevelier that they will be soon having to get by, but at least right now it has been plain sailing at the front. These two pushing absolutely hammer and tongs, trying to give as much as they can as they duck down in towards that Andretti hairpin once again. Not able to find the right move, not able to find the right way to procure the position. Anderson happy with where he is out there on track at the moment. Behind, Dory has now found the back of David Whitehouse and is searching for a way through, but Whitehouse is just running all the right lines at this moment in 7th position. Car number 77, just a little wide coming out of 2. But your leaders once again up through turn 6. This is one of the place is that they can go and get it. You can see the gap, almost 1.5 tenths. Little look to the inside. Oh, look at that, tyre to tyre as they go through. Not quite able for Anderson. It was brave through that section of road to try and make it happen. And he is forcing Alex Everett to really think about all the ways that he has to defend the position at the front, because Lars is trying it again around the outside this time at the final corner. He's not going to get the run. Maybe a push to pass might be the option here down towards this opening section of road. It's covered off on the inside here by Everett, but again, Anderson's going to search the long way around of the Crest Autosport with Apex Tracks car. and is not going to find it. So has to remain back in line. And in terms of that last lap, they lost about a second overall. And someone else who lost time was Timothy Stroh, just pushing wide out to the final corner. So that's why he's a little bit behind. And finally the move through as Whitehouse is now through on, Dory's through on Whitehouse. So that's another little change. That was down in towards turn 2. And the pace then suddenly improves. But the front 2 right now really trying to be aggressive. And the more aggressive that Anderson is, the more likely Barendrecht gets back into this race. And that is definitely worth talking about. And they will catch the traffic now here on lap 10 of 40. And traffic gets well out of the way there on that escape road. And now they chase. And effectively any time from now will be when drivers want to pit. But that's a mistake for Lars Petter Anderson, who just pushed a little bit too deep through the final corner. And that will be a thank you very much. Now, another move here as Stroh's actually just lost the place, going a little bit too deep. Then Bennyworth is through, and that was at the corkscrew. So Timothy Stroh now back down into 5th position. Bennyworth, who does have a shot here of the road course cut, he's now in 4th. And definitely trying to get as much as he can out of the racing today. Steadman now will be looking behind at Jamie Dory also here in this race. So there's also that to keep in mind. So as they chase about, those who started on the red stickers have looked pretty good. Those who have been out there on the regular Firestone, the hards, hasn't been so much of a good run. How deep on the brakes do you want to go? If your name is Jamie Dory, was tucked up right underneath the rear of Dave Steadman, trying to force a way through the corners. He's definitely got pace, but it's how he can extract and gain those spots, which has been the all-important one. And off the road goes Lars Petter Anderson, trying to find a way to make the pass. He finds himself in the middle of no man's land, just about gets it back on track without any dramas. And he will lose a place to Thijs Barendrecht. Everett given an absolute golden ticket. Then with that, a small mistake and troubles then for Lars Petter Anderson. Let's have ourselves a little look at exactly how that all came about. You can see here that this is about a lap away from where all of this happened. So going to be a little bit too far back. Let's have a little look around the outside, trying to make that move happen. And it didn't quite managed to get itself sorted. Apologies for that, but this is where it did happen, as Dave Steadman, by the way, has just lost the place to Jamie Dory out there on track. You can see he just outbrakes himself and has to choose left in order not to careen into the back of Alex Everett. And the race continues on with Everett in control. Whitehouse now also through on Dave Steadman, who is prioritising the finish of his race. Got the run down the inside into turn 5. First time we've really seen a move actually manage itself there. So maybe struggles, and the spin for de Grevelier. And that's coming through the corkscrew. He'll be able to get himself going again. And it's always a concern. But it is so low speed in these machines that do struggle a little bit with that mechanical grip. They don't have the aerodynamics to help them. Can be a little bit problematic. Also on the back is Nigel Stock, and this is going to be about the time where Stock's tyres are probably going to be at their best, because he's about 10-11 laps in through this stint. Other drivers' tyres are going to start falling off. He's going to be looking mighty pretty, I would say, out there over the course of racing here today. So I wouldn't put it outside of the realms of possibility that Nigel Stock can and will go out there, race to the best of his ability and try and get the most out of it. But he's on that alternative strategy that may just work for him overall, as he might be looking for a flurry of late overtakes. As he's over there, Whitehouse spins. Whitehouse spins. Somehow everyone avoids it. Great avoidance by Dave Steadman, who had to go off the road almost to just about duck through. And he had to duck low. And he was very alert to it. And a lot of drivers were. So it's able to keep everyone going. Not what David Whitehouse was hoping for out there, but ultimately good enough to keep the race in hand for him. So it brings Stock and Steadman together in the fight for 7th now. Here on lap 14 out of 40, diving down in towards that Andretti hairpin and trying to make the move happen. He gets it just stuck behind. And Steadman very happy to stay there unless he runs wide. Stock too slow to react on the seat. Had to get well out of the throttle and again stays behind. So a life saved there for Dave Steadman, as he knew that this race could have been trouble. Battle is also on for second position out on track, as Lars Petter Andersen in third will want to try and get by his teammate. He'll feel like he has the pace, but at least right now they stay as they are, the two Basic Racing Team drivers. They know that their race is a long way from effectively being ended. Jamie Dory, by the way, has been absolutely flying around with his laps, just 3/10 off the pace of the leaders. He's found the back of Timothy Stroh now in the fight for 5th place. So, Dory, after his early spin in the opening couple of laps, trying to find the right way to get through again, and he can't quite manage it here in through turn number 2, but he knows he's got a long time yet to make this race happen, and that there isn't really anything to touch upon just yet in terms of troubles for him. He knows that he can attack Timothy Stroh if he wants to. That last lap he was 3/10 quicker than the German. I'll be looking for good options. Again, behind that, Steadman and Stock together on track. Steadman just looking better off of the exits here. It is the sort of track where if you're good on exit, you're going to be good for the majority of the race. Stock pushing a little wide there. And it could have been a little troublesome, but okay as they go down the corkscrew. You can see that dirt being kicked up as Lars Petter Andersen makes the move and dives through into second position. You saw it on the timing tower. The move still on there. You can see Andersen now through, having made his pass and getting that one fantastically sorted together. But you now got the likes of Jamie Dory still trying to search for the right way to get through against Timothy Stroh here, pushing through the right of turn 3. Turn 4 follows up immediately after. You've got this little short shoot run that leads forward as you run around that lake on the inside of the circuit, and then you try and push for the next angle, the next opportunity to attack, because it's not an easy track to really get those overtakes flowing. It's really tough, as you can see just how much Jamie Dory is trying to push to stay with Timothy Stroh. He's in the grass through 6, which is probably the most loaded corner on the circuit. So if you can, and you go through that, you are pretty much hoping that all the aerodynamics that you put on this car, you put a lot on it here at a road course like this, you're going to have to hope that it all works out together. Well, 17 laps in, no drivers have decided to make the call to make a stop, which makes me think that 20 and 20 might be the way forward. And maybe those on the harder tyre, they might want to dive in early and get a longer run on the soft. It might be the chance with the red sticker tyres certainly have their own advantages out there today. So these hot conditions certainly getting a lot of grip down. Everett, your leader, has led every lap of this race so far, and he's just 4 laps away from a bonus point being added on. He's just 2 points clear of Thijs Barendrecht. Got the pole position, that makes him 3 points clear. Most laps led will be 4 points clear. And then overall fastest lap is something to keep in mind, a 9.2 for Barendrecht, as in comes Lars Petter Andersen, who has the 8.5 and the check mark for the fastest lap so far in this race. So Lars Petter Andersen makes the call then from second to jump into the pits, and 17 laps, he'll go 23, trying to chase down as much as he possibly can late on in this one. Good 3-car train as well, with Ben Bennyworth spearheading it at this point in time, with Stroh behind him and Jamie Dory both getting back up to pace. Bennyworth's going to have to be looking in the mirrors as they struggle with understeer. Starts through turns 1 and 2 and into 3. The next right-hander, Stroh, just falling a little bit off afterwards. Dory trying pretty desperately to find the right angle. It might just be pitting early is the key going forward. If you can pit early, you got this chance. Jamie Dory up there right now is effectively 5th position right now. Lars Petter Anderson, by the way, has come out just behind Nigel Stock and Dave Steadman. And that battle's a pretty spicy one. Steadman saying, I'm pitting in this lap. You might want to not make the move. So that battle going to be crucially important. And Anderson goes around. Anderson goes around. He saves it. How he manages to gets on the brakes early, allows Whitehouse to go through, but he's kept it out of the walls, which is huge. Bennyworth diving into the pits. He now falls behind Ollie Peters, so that spin caused a lot of trouble, and that's not something that Everett's going to really hear too much about until Ollie Peters says to him in the same communication, you know, he's just spun, and that's not good. Steadman in the pits, followed in by David Whitehouse, and it's a really tough pit entry. You've got to really use all of the rotation in the steering arms, get yourself into pits today, and these drivers having to really slow up are doing more than enough. And it is a tricky pit exit as well, so keep that in the back of the mind. It is going to be tough to get out of the pits too, and Ben Bennyworth just about to leave the pits here, and he goes down, breaks down the hill, single track road, and then you've got to get between the blue cones with the line, and you're back out and in the walls. Ollie Peters here. Ollie Peters in trouble in the wall, trying to keep his race alive. Going to stay green for the moment, but Ollie Peters putting it in the wall at turn 3. Not what we expect. So some dramas out there on track. It's into the pits will come Jamie Dory. And at the moment, Everett in control of this one. So Dory pitting in from 4th position will go on to a set of the hard tyres. But damage, not what you want to be seeing or hearing, especially in this race. This is a tough race as it is. You don't want to be throwing yourself in the wall. The good news for Ollie Peters is it's right on strategy time. So, oh, Whitehouse. David Whitehouse going around. I think he's just managed to avoid it. Barendrecht just avoids it as well, as Whitehouse tries to get back out on track. I think he just about managed to avoid the barriers as he went backwards, just managing to, he just clipped it. But they're all starting to find out what makes this track difficult. And a lot of drivers now starting to spin or get on the wrong side of this circuit, and that's the last thing that they want to be doing. Another spin for Whitehouse, but Ollie Peters now in the pit. And no surprises there, but your leading gap now up to 6.5 seconds for Alex Everett. And what was key on that lap, despite the spin for Lars Petter Anderson, is he did a 10 flat compared to the 11 flat of Alex Everett. So that's a full second on that last lap. So he is trying to mitigate some of the damage. And it is worth noting that in comparison to Jamie Dory, he is still a mile ahead. So still making the right decisions out there. Still trying to chase down time that he needs in this race. And Dory's off the road. Now, he's had an issue spinning out of the rainy curve of turn 10. So Dory on his outlap, finding out what makes this track difficult. You can see him really biting against the wheel. 3-4 different stabs to try and get it to central. And they can see where everyone's pitted. So the top 4 in this race still yet to come in. Everett happy to stay out there on a 21st lap. And Barendrecht's going to dive in. So Thijs Barendrecht will pit. I'm sure Alex will come in next lap. But Barendrecht into the pits then, looking to make his stop, looking to keep himself going in this race with what has been a very tough and grueling ordeal so far in this one. Barendrecht finds his box, go up on the jacks, look to take his service, and then down he'll go, and away he will go on those harder tyres. Stroh will stay out longer. I won't be surprised to see Nigel Stock staying out longer, but they are going to be close as they will go towards 1 and 2 here through the Andretti hairpin. And Barendrecht's just going to get out ahead of Nigel Stock. By comparison, Anderson's about 5 seconds back of that. So, tells you how much of a margin you need to claw back in over the course of this race. Bennyworth ahead of Dory as they've both pitted. Matt Emmons, the only other driver not to pit, but in comes the leader, Alex Everett. Very easy not to speed going through because you have to get the car slowed down. And then he's just got to take his service and effectively run the race the way that he knows he's capable of doing. Emmons just coming across the pit lane, nearly having a spin into the wall. Would have been disastrous if he'd found some trouble. But also in comes Timothy Stroh on his 22nd lap on the red sticker soft tyres. So it's about as far as they go. There's Tijs Barendrecht by comparison. There's Stroh in the pits. So Stroh's going to fall back here. But Everett coming out then of the pits should still maintain the lead of this race. And has done so wonderfully. Barendrecht then in second. And still Nigel Stock in third. And give some credit here to Nigel Stock here in this race. He is still holding on to the rear of Tijs Barendrecht even through the outlap. So he's definitely got some pace out there today. And it should be interesting to see where Stroh comes out in comparison, because Ben Bennyworth here is only just now moving through 1 and 2. You can see it. It's going to be close off the exit. He's running a little deep though here is Stroh. And he'll have no power on the exit. Had he got a clean getaway on pit exit, he would have been ahead of Ben Bennyworth. But struggling to get himself out of the pit, he'll drop the spot. So Stroh struggling a little bit, and we'll have Jamie Dory back on the rear again, who of course had his spin. He's going to look down towards the inside. Stroh's going to run way too deep around the outside, has to get it checked up. And thank you very much. That is a nice position, and off the road's gone to Grevalier, and did so staying out of the way of Whitehouse to go a second lap down. So into the pits comes Nigel Stock then from third position. One of the last takers. The only other one who hasn't come in yet is Matt Emmons, who is down there in 9th position at the moment. But Stock will be moving on to the red sticker tyre. Go up, get 4 new ones. Come down. And it doesn't look like the tyre's changed. So it has changed, sorry. It is a red sticker tyre now for Nigel Stock, but he's got to get himself away towards the end of this race. He knows he has to, number 26, and he'll certainly be pushing hard to try and get himself going. Tijs Barendrecht then in second position, trying everything to chase this down, has got the gap down to 2.8 seconds to Alex Everett, who's got this race well in hand at the moment. At this point, can afford to let Barendrecht through and do what's needed. Matt Emmons now into the pits as well. So he's very much in this one, trying to get himself moving forward and get as much as he can. And de Grevalier will also dive into the pits as well. So a lot of drivers choosing now as the time to pit. The last of the pit is in, and they'll be looking to get themselves back out and away again and racing their own way. So Alex Everett leads, Tijs Barendrecht second, Lars Petter Anderson currently third. 4th and 5th is the battle on screen between Ben Bennyworth and Jamie Dory out there on track, with 6th position currently, one Mr. Stroh. Just off in front of them was Matt Emmons coming out of the pits. He's got to be careful, and he has got a penalty here for an unsafe pit exit. So Emmons off the road, in trouble, in the wall. Matt Emmons then is in the wall, and that will be a safety car here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So he finds himself in trouble off the road at 3, and suddenly the race gets slowed right down. Everett, who was on course here to fly forward in this race and make something happen of it, now has to check it back down again, and that would not be what he was hoping for, with a gap that was very manageable. It puts Barendrecht and Anderson back into play, and this should be the all-important battle now that they are trying to get themselves through. Bennyworth 4th, Dory 5th, Stroh in 6th, and with pacing now for the next couple of laps at least, they know that this race has been neutralised, and they will see the tyre tracks as they go through turn 3 on just what difficulties they have. There's Timothy Stroh, who will now try and catch back up to the pace car. 25 laps clean on lap 26. And there's the comparison of where they are on track. And you can see the likes all the way back there of David Whitehouse in 10th, who is on the leading lap still. It's a long way for him to get back into contention. And so it is going to take a while, maybe a lap for him to get right back up again. But definitely not ideal in terms of this race, with Matt Emmons finding the wall. There was an interesting little incident there for Matt Emmons. He got the penalty, of course, and there'll always be concerns about when you get that sort of penalty. But just looking at him and the way that he was going through turn number 3, just can't get the car slowed down. Too much speed in. That's thrown him in the wall. So he had a moment here first. That was him getting out of the way of the leaders as he went through the corkscrew. And then coming out of the pits here, you can see misses the blue cone, which is a penalty. And then as he tries to go through, his tyres are dirty. Tries to go through, can't get the car slowed down. And then he's fighting against grip, throws it in the wall. And that's a caution out here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. So, this is interesting. Drivers are going to come in. They know they've got to spend 10 laps on the certain tyre compounds each. Now, Barendrecht here is going to be in the pits. Jamie Dory as well. And they're hoping that with fresh tyres, in comparison to their rivals, they can run through the field and really gain that pace again. So a gamble here for Dory and for Barendrecht. And they know there's a long road yet. And if it pays off, it will pay off in abundance. But they, again, demote themselves down to 8th and 9th positions here, with David Whitehouse currently in 10th. And there he is, just in the back of shot right now. So just shows you how far back he was. But this is going to be a big gamble in terms of strategy for those drivers as they go through. Barendrecht's actually gone back out on the red sticker tyre. But the question becomes then, how long's he gone on his stint? Because he's got to go 10 laps on both sets, I do believe. He came into pit on lap 21, and he's only gone about 5 laps on the stint of tyres. So that decision from Thijs Barendrecht looks good on paper here, but drivers must use both compounds for at least 25% race distance, which has not happened yet for Thijs Barendrecht, which has not happened, I believe, either for Jamie Dory, who came into the pits and has put on the red sticker tyres. It's not a case of Formula One rules where you have to just put yourself in. If you come back out on the red sticker, they're both going to have to come in and pit again. And they're relying on another caution to do that. And that is big trouble for their race, because they may get disqualified if they do not adhere to that position. So, with Alex Everett in control of this race, he knows that this is all he needs. Pace car dives back in. We'll get back underway on lap 28. And he is again looking to wait as long as he can through the corner, stamp the power down, with Lars Petter Anderson just behind him. Green flag back underway. We're racing at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It's a long way yet in terms of this race, that if you can get it sorted, you've got a great chance of putting it all together. Everett clear. It's Anderson second. Bennyworth in third. Stroh is fourth. Stock is fifth. Stedman in 6th position, and trying to make something happen here as he tries to find a way past Stroh. Couldn't find it through turn 4, but again is trying everything to make this a reality. A little dive down towards the inside might be crucial here, but at least at this point, it is not going to be a race where he can really make something happen. Again, Stroh runs a little wide, and the top 3 have broken away. Bennyworth's got some great pace in third right now as he chases up and over, trying to get as much as he can out of it. Bennyworth is on the hard compound tyre. Top 3 all are. Stock in trouble, and almost Barendrecht there and Ollie Peters fighting hard for it as he goes through. So this is going to be a very, very big moment in terms of the race. And off the road just in front is Stroh. That allows Nigel Stock then to think about side by side on the run down towards turn 2 in the Andretti hairpin. Going to have to go the long way around if he wants to try and get it. But on the brakes, doesn't quite have enough. Stroh's got it covered, and he runs deep through, and there's contact behind, and nosed in from behind then. And that's Barendrecht, who's lost his front wing because he's run into Dave Steadman out there, who's got damage now to the rear wing. And both of them now are going to be limping around the circuit, trying to get themselves back into position. This is going to be a huge disaster for the pair of them in terms of the way they go through. You can see here the rear wing hanging off of Dave Steadman right now, who will not be happy with what's gone on. Stock, by the way, is through. He's up into 4th position through all of that, and almost contact Steadman and Barendrecht as well. And that was a little bit cheeky as they went through on the power. Steadman coming back up to the racing line, and effectively they've made more contact between each other. Definitely not ideal in terms of what their race needs to be. But there's been a change for the race lead here. Alex Everett's lost it, and he's lost it after the corkscrew, pushing a little bit too hard down the exit here, and had to let off the power because he had a slow down penalty. Troubles brewing, and that again is not ideal in terms of the race that he wanted. So the only driver to keep an eye out on now, who needs to come back in again, is Jamie Dory. He needs to come back in for the mediums. Back in then is Steadman, and Thijs Barendrecht, I believe, has pulled the car over after more contact, finding the wall out there on track. So that was coming into the pits, and effectively that was off the racing circuit and back away enough that there is no need to throw a caution on that incident. So that keeps ourselves going. Steadman back out and away again. Barendrecht's race pretty much over at this point in time, but still racing continues. Lars Petter Andersen leads this race out front, but he can't get the road course cut as it finishes like this. He needs a bit of help. That help will have to come in the form of Ben Bennyworth, and even then maybe Nigel Stock as well, who's on the red stickers. So he's in 4th position. You got Jamie Dory, who is there in 5th, but remember, Dory is out there right now, and he is out there on the red sticker tyre. He needs to come in within the final 5 laps, otherwise his race is all over in terms of he hasn't done his full share. And there's troubles for Stroh coming out of the final corner, so he has a little moment, and he's okay right now, but he's back in 8th position, and he's struggling out there at the moment, is Stroh. It looks like he's had a slow lap out there today, and on that last lap, and he's going to be in a world of hurt between now and the end of this one. But at least right now, there is Nigel Stock, who finds himself in 4th position right now. He's got Jamie Dory just behind him, but he knows that Dory, in terms of his race, came in on lap 19, and then lap 27 was when he came back in. So he's only done about 8 laps in terms of his stint on the hard tyre, which means he still needs 2 more if he wants this race to go the way he wants to. Everett still has to give chase to Lars Petter Andersen, was 2 tenths quicker on that last lap. Bennyworth is holding on quite nicely in 3rd position and doing more than enough out there to keep his race alive in what has been a very tough battle out there for a number of drivers. They move through, and this right now is going to be a tough battle between these two. They know as well that fight for 3rd behind could still go on, and Nigel Stock, get this, did a 109.9 on that last lap through. He was the fastest of everybody because he's on the different tyre. How much has he got to go with? He's got Jamie Dory chasing, did a 109.4 just behind him, has a huge wiggle. And so that chase is very much on as they go through. They know that this is an all-important stage of the race. They can't afford to take each other out of contention. And Dory's right up underneath. But remember, he still has to pit. Now, I don't think he knows about his 25% with both tyres. And not just 25% with the tyre he starts on. He's a little bit too deep into turn 1. Has to way back out of it here. Stock a little bit struggling to get the power down that he wants. And the gap's 7 tenths of a second at the front of the field. Still not over and done with here. We've got 8 laps of racing. to figure out who of these 5 are going to be on the podium here today. And you have to figure out at this point that it's the sort of race where anything is possible. Great run by Dory. He's going to move a little bit of tyres in the grass up the hill towards the corkscrew. And Nigel Stock's got nothing for it. And there's almost a spin. Just saved. Dory, heart in mouth stuff, able to save it and moves up into 4th, but he still has to make that stop, remember, because he's 2 laps short of the 25% rule. He gets on the brakes, moves through, and now we go to the next lap, lap number 34. The gap now out over a second out there at the front of this field. Drivers out of the race, Matt Emmons, Tijs Barendrecht, De Greville is 2 laps down, 10 runners left. But still, Dory thinking about that podium and getting by Ben Bennyworth. He's searching for an angle. He is searching for an opportunity here. And it is going to be now a case of what do you do? Moves through the very, I would say, sweeping turn 5 up to the very taut turn 6. Bennyworth a little bit off. And now here comes Jamie Dory trying to go around the outside. It's covered all the way by Bennyworth, who covers his flank fantastically. Sliding through the corkscrew, he saves the place. But now he's probably giving up hopes of a victory now in the attempts of trying to hold on to position number 3 out on track. On the brakes, through the final corner once again. And now it is a case of what do you do with the race this late, hitting the brakes, going into the opening couple of corners. It is a nice and calm foray at the moment in this battle going on for what is the final spot on the podium. And now trying to go to the outside. Can he get it sorted? Oh, Bennyworth deep on the brakes, but up the hill. Almost contact there as he tried to put the power down. Dory, it's never good to go too wide at 6 and around the outside. Oh, Ben Bennyworth, brilliant. Nigel Stock will pick up the scraps. He'll move back up into 4th position and then immediately attack for 3rd. Almost contacts they go through. Brilliant scrapping for the podium here. And they're going to bring Ollie Peters into this if they're not careful. What a battle we've got on our hands right now. And the leader's gap is hovering around a second as well. So this race far from finished at this point as they hit the brakes, go into the final corner. Ben Bennyworth holding on for everything that he has got at this stage of the race. With 9 drivers on the lead lap, they're all pushing here with abandon. Try and get what you want. Stock goes deep around the outside. I don't think he's got the line though, but he'll try and power off of the exit here and get what he needs to. And he's going to try this one into 3, but he runs off the road and Jamie Dory gets his place back. They are tripping over each other behind Ben Bennyworth, who is desperately trying to keep that podium. And in the wall goes Whitehouse. And all of a sudden, there is a caution here at Laguna Seca. David Whitehouse is in the wall. And that is a big, big accident for him. He throws it away, going through out of 2. And that's just a power application issue. So this is what happens on the brakes in towards turn 2. And there you go. Just trying to put the power down. You can see it right now. This is how easily the race can go. And so going through 2. Just too much power. Bang. Heavy in the wall. And that is trouble. Lars Petter Anderson with the lead. Safety car will come out here on lap 37. I'm not sure whether this race is going to end under caution or not, but it is going to be close as they will have to deal with that car off. We might have a 1 lap or maybe even a 2 lap strategy, and this is also the perfect time for Jamie Dory, who's in 4th position. If he knows about the rule of that he's got to use both of his tyres, he'll have to come in and pit. And under this caution might be the perfect time to do so. So that's in the back of the mind. That's going to be worth taking into consideration. And, well, a race that has had everything. Its second caution comes out. And this race far from over. Steadman was talking on the radio about his contact with Thijs Barendrecht, saying they'll have a look at it after the race, see whether there was internet issues or anything along that like. And for the championship leader to get caught up in something like that, and we're talking overall, it might put him in a very tough position overall in regards to Timothy Stroh. But for the Road Course Cup, Everett in the right place to do everything he needs to. But if he's got Ben Bennyworth behind, and if he's got a run off the restart, he might be in trouble in comparison to Lars Petter Andersen, who would absolutely love it to pick something up. And we will go to lap 38. And this now becomes a really important phase of the race. Stroh back there in 7th. Damage limitation again. He will gain points, though, in the overall in comparison to Barendrecht, who will use this as a drop. Peters as well in 6th place. He's done well to recover through. Nigel Stock currently in 5th place. So there is a lot to come along, and there is a lot to battle. They will start lap 38. And the lights on top of the iRacing Porsche first safety car are off. Which means by every intent and purpose, we'll be back racing on lap 39. A 2-lap shootout. And that could be the biggest 2-lap shootout that they all are possibly looking for. Opportunity gone for Jamie Dory. His race will be ending in disqualification if he does not pit at the end of this lap, because he will have no way to serve the ruling out there overall of using both tyres for 25% of the distance, as is written in code and written effectively or inscribed in pen and ink. So this race definitely not over and done with. You got Steadman back there in 8th as well. The two T&D cars 7th and 8th. They're just trying to get out of dodge. You can see damage there on the front wing of Stephen de Grevelier. So he's got to try and hold on. He's just asked how many laps are there left. And it's 2 when the flag drops that he will have to be alert to. So 2 laps to figure this all out. Lars Petter Andersen with the lead. Everett is 2nd. And Ben Bennyworth then is in 3rd position. Got Dory in 4th, but he is due to be disqualified if he does not come into the pits. And then Nigel Stock, who is in 5th position overall. Control of the race with Lars Petter Andersen. You can see Everett is right up alongside him. Pace car dives in, effectively Verstappening, trying to force Andersen to go. Bennyworth's got to be alert to this here. And now he goes. No pit stop then for Jamie Dory. And with that, that is going to be a big dive into turn number 1. And he knows that he has got himself an awkward battle here. Andersen holding on to position, but not taking. That's 75% is going to be a really, really crucial stage of the race. You can see Everett has got the run up the hill, trying to get that line. But he's got still a lot to go in terms of this one. Up the hill, defending hard goes Andersen, and he almost loses the back end. He almost loses the back end, and he somehow saves it, but Everett's got a really good run here, thinking about it at 10. Trying every which way to get it. He'll have to go around the outside. White flag lap's going to start. And now what do you do? Hard defense on the inside by Andersen. He looks to go through. He looks to attack around that outside. This is the prime place to get it done. And oh, they almost tangle. Front to rear wheel on the start of the final lap. Bennyworth in third. You got Stock in fourth. Peters in fifth. And on the brakes, Anderson slowed through three. And it opens the door up on the inside. Oh, how close can you get, Alex, to get this sorted? He might lose the cup here if Bennyworth tries to go around the outside, which he does. He suddenly has to defend. And Anderson's been given a reprieve. Here comes Stock, looking for the podium here on the inside. And again, it's too wide at 6. And suddenly, Bennyworth holds on. Stock up the rise is trying to get the move. And he can get it on the brakes. Oh, what a move. And round goes Bennyworth. Round goes Bennyworth, he saves it, but he stays in 5th place. But Lars Petter Anderson, what a save. As Stroh now desperate to get down the inside, a little bit of contact as they go through and he shuffles through. Lars Petter Anderson will round the final corner. He will take the victory here at Laguna Seca, and Alex Everett just behind him is going to take the Race Course Cup. And what a brilliant road course cup it has been for Alex Everett. Fantastic racing all throughout, and that an incredible battle as they get themselves over to the end of the race. So some great racing that has sorted itself out, and we can say an incredible battle up and down the field has put itself into some great places. Lars Petter Anderson will get the victory overall here in 51 minutes and 36 seconds. He will win by just under 0.8 of a second over Alex Everett, who takes the cup overall. Nigel Stock will take third, with 4th position going to Ollie Peters. Timothy Stroh will finish off in 5th place, with Dave Steadman 6th. Ben Bennyworth will be the last finisher on the leading lap in 7th, with Stephen de Grevelier in 8th position, and David Whitehouse will finish off in position number 9. You follow on from that, 10th position, Thijs Barendrecht out of the race, as well as Matt Emmons. You've got Jamie Dory, who gets the disqualification for not going through 50% tyre rule by the end. Of course, you have to run 25% on both tyres. Dory did not, and then not taking the start due to tiredness was Jeremy Pronk. His race all over and done with. So that will bring results to a close, but we are going to get a chance to jump in with a couple of drivers. First and foremost, we're going to grab Alex Everett in, who wins overall the all-important Road Course Cup. And Alex, you really had to fight for that. It looked like it was plain sailing. The safety car, the first one came out, had to fight hard with Lars Petter Anderson, but those final 2 laps looked for a moment like Ben Bennyworth was going to steal your cup from you.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. I'm really pleased to have won the Road Course Cup. Since winning it at Watkins Glen, I've had my eye on that past the over races. Just haven't really cared about them compared to this. This is the one I wanted, so I'm really, really pleased. It's my first title on iRacing as well, so big day for myself. I've got Race Room, I've got Dirt Rally, and now I've got iRacing finally. I'm very happy. But yeah, that final lap, it was the final 2 laps really. It was absolutely brilliant battle between myself and Lars. It was a bit like Abu Dhabi last year, but let's not bring that up because there's sensitive people around. But yeah, it was a great battle, and yeah, for a moment I did panic as Ben was looking for the move. But I could see I think it was Nigel got the undercut on him, and that sort of put me in the clear. But at that point I was a bit too far back from Lars, so yeah, never mind. But yeah, I knew I was safe in 2nd place with bonus points I accumulated today as well. So chuffed a bit.
Well, every reason to be, and of course you'll be getting your hands on a circuit designed by Apex Tracks of the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Hot conditions today, just how difficult of a challenge was it to keep the tyres regulated?
It wasn't too bad, if I'm honest. We all looked at the temperature at this about halfway through practice, and we thought, oh, this is quite interesting. But actually the tyres have held on quite well. The softs did get a little bit slippery towards the end of their stint, and it did take a long time for the hards to heat up, which kind of goes against the track temperature thing. But It wasn't too bad out there. The hard tyre was the hardest tyre to work with. The soft was definitely the quickest tonight, and I think a lot of us realised that very quickly tonight.
I think we absolutely did. But the focus you've definitely got. You've got 3 rounds left to try and get, I would say, anything extra. So, Gateway, how's that feeling?
I've never raced at Gateway on iRacing. I raced it on the old IndyCar series game all them decades ago, really. That's the only experience I've got of Gateway, so I can't tell you, Jake. But I know there's a lot of people who are big fans of Gateway in this series, and it kind of puts together the 2 types of speedway we have in this series. There's the first 2 corners, which are it's a very tight corner, and then we've got the almost super speedway like turns 3 and 4, so it's kind of going to put together everything we've learned and experienced of this season so far.
Absolutely. Well, the floor is yours, Alex. You are champion of the Road Course Cup. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done?
Big thank you to Apex Tracks, providing the track that's going to go on my wall, of course, but also they sponsor the series, they sponsor the organisation. Huge thank you to them. We're very proud to carry them on our cars. Big shout out to Ollie, because he struggled tonight with pedal issues, so he gradually got used to it as the night went on, and we've got big points for the team's championship out of tonight, so credit to him. Shout out to my dad, of course. He always watches. He's my biggest fan. He's my biggest mentor as well, and gave me a few tips for tonight, and they certainly did pay off. And thank you to you guys, of course. And that's about everything. I've dragged your time out there.
Yeah, no worries at all. Alex Everett there joining us with a huge victory in terms of the Cup, 2nd overall today. Victory overall, though, went to Lars Petter Andersen here. And, well, Lars, it looked like about 15 laps in, just after your pit stop, that the race was completely over for you. A little spin coming up turn 6, and it looked like 3rd place was the best you could settle for. How crucial was it today that those safety cars came in, got you back into a place to fight, and you moved your way back to the front?
Well, I'm very, very happy for that last safety car. Otherwise, I was already settling for 3rd, perhaps 2nd. But yeah, in the end, I'm really happy, and the fight was just so awesome. I'm just looking very much forward to see this in replay, actually, because it was really intense.
It absolutely was, and especially when you're coming in only for these road course races, do you feel like there is an extra incentive for you to go out there, to be aggressive, to show what you're capable of?
Yeah, I mean, before this race, I really thought I had very good pace around here. I thought I had such a big advantage that I was planning on qualifying on the hard tires, which wouldn't work. So in the end, I'm happy I went back to the soft compound, because then obviously I got to have this fight with Alex at the start, which was again absolutely awesome. But I forgot the question, actually.
I guess the question is, do you feel like it was an extra incentive for you, knowing that you're in for only the 2 races this season?
Yeah, obviously, that's why I joined this series, was to show that I am a fast driver. So obviously, then I have to go fast for the 2 races I'm in, and I'm very excited to do the Indy Oval, or the last Indy 100. For the end of the season as well. I'm looking much forward to that, but it was very, very nice to join this first road season, and I've truly enjoyed it, and I really hope it comes back next season.
Hope so as well. And in terms of that final 2 laps, we've just been seeing it here on screen. How amazing was it? Especially with a lap and a half to go, you have that little grab of grass over at the corkscrew. Just how much did that set you up for, okay, we're in a defensive mode, we have to really make sure every corner's perfect?
When the safety car came out, at first I thought, oh wait, but that's race over. So for the first lap behind the safety car, I was thinking for myself, okay, it's just following the safety car. And then obviously I realized that, oh, there's going to be 2 full laps of racing. And then I was looking at my push to pass count, and I still had plenty left. I think I had 8 left. So I was a bit relaxed, but then Alex had a very good run on me the first lap because of he had fresher tires and obviously the slipstream as well. So I got kind of scared that I couldn't get rid of him behind, and so I was very lucky to have all this push to pass left. Otherwise, I don't think I would have stood there as a race winner.
Well, floor is yours here, Lars. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you?
Oh yeah, I'm very happy for having the BRT team with me, and obviously being teammates with Thijs has been a very, very nice experience for me. I haven't really raced in a team like this before, and that's the main sponsors. Otherwise, there's yeah, no, it's BRT. That's supporting me and pulling me along. So very happy to be a part of that team.
No worries at all. Lars Petter Anderson taking victory here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. In third position joining us is Nigel Stock. Now Nigel, talk to us about that last lap, because it thought like you were going from 5th into 4th and then you got that chance for 3rd. How important was that final move? Well, hopefully we don't have the same problems as last time here with Nigel Stock, where we aren't quite able to hear him, or he is maybe able to hear us but unable to speak back, which would not be the most ideal scenario. Nigel, do you have a copy, buddy? I believe we do not, therefore we are going to be unable to speak to Nigel Stock here this evening, who finished off in 3rd position, which will bring an end to our post-race coverage here from the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. A massive, massive thank you has to go to all of the companies affiliated with us. Of course, the big one is, of course, Apex Tracks, the motorsport and motor racing circuit wall art racetrack sculpture designers who manufacture using Formula One and motorsport-inspired rapid prototyping technologies. That goes along with Track Racer, 603 Autosport, goes along with Digital Motorsport, Esports Sim, the GP Box, as well as Uncle Luke's Sign and Sticker Shop. And of course, an all-important thanks to Crest Autosport, be it where you've watched it, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you need to do to get yourself into play with us and watch more amazing racing. We'll be back a week from today. Gateway is the place that we'll be jumping to, as that is going to be a huge, huge race for us next time out. But from William Foyle on cameras, myself, Jake Sparey, Alex Everett takes the Road Course Cup. Had to fight hard in the final couple of laps to make that a reality. Lars Petter Anderson had the pace to recover to victory here today, but some big chances have gone away. And if you want to talk overall, there's a huge, huge story developing. See you next week for what is some great racing coming up. Gateway, round 10, coming up 1 week from today.